Okay, so just so everybody knows, we are recording the session because there are some people who wanted to come, but they have other obligations and such. And I know in this country, there's these ideas about privacy that are kind of extreme, and you need everybody's permission to record. And so what we always tell people is if you don't want to, people to know that you came to this thing, you can leave yourself on.
Okay, admit.
Yeah, admit. You can leave your camera off, and you can also change your name.
I think we should begin. We are already, it's 10:05.
Yeah,
okay.
let's start.
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, I'd like to welcome everybody to this webinar about Fulbright, and we're very happy to see people here. We've got students and professors and professionals, and we're very happy to do that. And we figure we'll go for about an hour, and we'll probably have questions and answers at the end. We're going to run through some of the different types of grants that are available and what the whole process is like. And feel free to ask questions at any time. There's a little raise your hand icon you can do, or you can put things in the chat, but I don't always see those. So if I don't, you can raise your hand or say something. It's okay. And if people are okay with putting their camera on, unless they don't have a good internet connection, I like to see who's here, but I understand there's reasons not to do that. So, okay, and I'm going to turn it over to Jatin because he has a plan that we're going to follow.
No. Thanks everybody for coming. So this webinar is about Fulbright, and the webinar would be divided into 3 parts. What is Fulbright? Why is Fulbright? Why you should apply for it? Why it is worth it? Why it is worth the effort? And how you can get one, and what are the possibilities, to get it, and how can you improve your application? So the first topic is what is Fulbright, and Professor Claman can answer this question better than me. So up to you. What is Fulbright, please?
Okay, I'm going to give a very brief historical introduction, which is probably more interesting to me than to all of you. But so I'm going to do a screen share and tell you a little bit about the history. I think this is the 75th year of Fulbright. So allow me to. Is that right? Is that right?
Yep, probably.
Okay, screen share. Okay, can people see this? People can see that? Okay, so now Fulbright is associated with this organization called USIEF, United States India Educational Foundation. And this is the important thing right here, is the reason it's called Fulbright is that there was a US senator named William Fulbright, J. William Fulbright, and he was very interested in having an international relations kind of program. You'll notice the year is 1945. That's right after World War II. And the reason for that is, just very quickly, as some of you may know, that right after World War II ended, there was basically a worldwide competition between the United States and the Soviet Union for who's gonna rule the world, and they're fighting over which country is going to be in the communist camp or the capitalist camp. And so Fulbright was really an effort at what would be called soft diplomacy. So in addition to armies and professional diplomats, he thought, well, if we have regular people that we send to other countries, Fulbright goes all over the world, and average people like us, normal citizens, if we all get to know each other and understand each other, it's a lot less chance that there's going to be a war. As simple as that. And it's really a wonderful, idealistic idea, and I think it's actually been quite successful. So it's been going since then. You can see the whole history here. But one other interesting point is that up until, I'm not sure when, sometime in the last 20 years, it used to be if I was going to India or Jatin was coming to the US, it would be called a Fulbright Fellowship or a Fulbright Scholarship. But now it's called Fulbright Nehru. And the reason that is that at a certain point, the Indian government got involved, and they are sharing the costs and the responsibility of it. So I think that's really nice. It's what used to be called a joint venture, I guess, in business. But it's really a wonderful program. There are all kinds of famous people have been part of it. people who went on to be prime ministers and presidents, but also mostly like just average people too. It's not. That's really what it's for. It's not just for rock stars and prime ministers. So that's just a brief history. You could read a little bit more about it if you want, but that's really the basic background. I'm going to stop the screen share and hand it over to Jatin for the moment.
Thank you, sir. But the next question is, why is Fulbright? Why we should apply for it? The best answer could come to my mind is it's fully funded. Just someone wants to admit.
I'll admit everybody. Don't worry.
Yeah, so they'll pay for everything. Literally, I mean, when I applied for this scholarship for the first time, that was June last year. Since then, I haven't paid even a single rupee from my own pocket. They have paid for everything. Even when I got selected, well, after the interview round, when I have to give the TOEFL, the English exam, even that exam, even the cost of that exam, which is around 15,000 rupees, even that they paid, they covered. So I got, everything covered. I got a medical insurance, very nice medical insurance, more than, better than many people who live here, to be honest, because medical insurance is very expensive here. An accident sickness program, a workspace in a university. So pretty much all bases is covered.
Money for books?
Covered. Yeah.
Some supply, money for books?
Yeah, money for books. Not for keyboards, but money for books.
I had an argument with them about that. But
yeah, money for books. So they will take care of yourself here if you get it, like a lot. And the respect and love and and that the moment you tell them that you're a Fulbrighter, they will accept you very, very nicely. And the whole US society probably is like that. At least in New York and New Jersey, they accept you very,
it's a word people know, and then it's yes. Like, oh, Fulbright, yeah.
Yes. And second thing I would say that it has actually a very good selection rate that people do not know about. I mean, if you look at scholarships such as Rhodes, where the selection rate is 0.7%, literally, I mean, it's incredibly difficult. And think of like Commonwealth Split Flight Fellow. If you want to go to Oxford, it's 0.5%, probably around that, around that ballpark. In Fulbright is actually 17%. But again, if you're an Indian, then you're unlucky, because in India, the selection rate is much less, because the number of applications is much higher as compared to other countries. I mean, so I met this Argentinian Fulbrighter, and she said there are only 23 Fulbrighters from her country, and from India, there are more than 300 Fulbrighters coming to US every year.
Right.
But those 300 would be selected from probably 10,000 applications. I mean, so for category which I applied to, Fulbright Nehru Doctoral Research Fellowship, there were around 1,100 applications in the beginning, and only 23 got selected. And two of them are from music. One is me, and second one is from Kolkata. I know it. But still, it has a better selection rate than many other equally reputed, and equally well-paying scholarships. So you really would have a better chance of having it as compared to others.
And please don't be discouraged by those numbers and percentages. Just don't. Again, one thing I've said to people is that, which I hope will be more clear, is that you do not have to be a star to get.
No, you don't.
In fact, they don't. It's like you don't have to be Kaushiki to come over here and study singing. People like that, they can come already. Hang on. People who are famous and super famous and stuff, they have other opportunities to come here. This is for more like average people. I don't teach at Harvard, okay? I teach at a sort of middle okay university, and a lot of the other professors are like that. So I just don't want people think like, any of you to think like, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not qualified. Do not think that, okay? That's all. Jatin, what were you going to say?
I was going to say there is some truth to it that you have to be a star or not. I mean, if you're an Indian, you would be selected, and the process you would go through would be very tough as compared to other countries. I mean, if you're an Indian, then probably you would if not a star, you have to be somewhere around that. And
Yeah, you have to be good.
The majority of the Fulbrighters from India are all freaking geniuses. When I see their resume, I was like, how I got selected. I mean, there's one woman who's from IIT Delhi, went to Oxford, and now she's here at Columbia. I'm like, yeah, that's unfair. This is too smart. But okay.
But not everybody's like that at all. When I look at the people, most people I know on this side who applied for it, and even Fulbright from India, they're good, solid students, good, solid artists. They're not all stars, not at all. And that's why we wanted to have this, because we want people to know that if somebody's doing a PhD at Delhi University, they're pretty good. And so you're competitive, I would say.
Yes. And the third thing is the brand of Fulbright, and also when you get the Fulbright and you become part of a Fulbright community here, you meet people from all over the world. I have met people from a country known as Mauritania. I've never heard of that country before, but I met someone from Mauritania, and I came to know about his culture, about the culture in Mauritania, about the music, about the food. The political dictatorship they have in Mauritania, all that. So I had no idea. And you meet people literally from those countries. If you would like to go to those countries by your own money, you would be bankrupt very soon. But you meet them, all of them, at one place, and it brings all these people from different nationalities all together, and you learn a lot. You just learn a lot. And Fulbright, when you get the Fulbright, you become a Fulbrighter, and Fulbright will always treat you as someone special than someone else. They will always keep sending you information. They will always tell you, okay, we got this application, would you like to pitch in into? Like, for example, Professor Claman, was in Fulbright committee for sending few Fulbrighters to the US. Not to the US, to other countries.
Well, both sides.
Okay.
So they will include you, and it's a nice thing. And I think even more important is that not only do you meet these people, but you'll be friends with them, or you can become friends with them, connections for the rest of your life. And it's very, very valuable. So
okay.
So maybe we should look at the website, or
yes. Just before that, so why is Fulbright? First is very prestigious. Second, selection rate. Third is fully funded. Fourth is international exposure. So
good.
Yeah, it has all good reasons to apply for.
Good point.
Okay. So now we should look for how you can apply for it, and so it differs from country to country. The Fulbright Commission in India is USEF, United States Indian Education Foundation, and they're very helpful. So even in USEF, there are many categories and subcategories depending on your expertise and depending what kind of fellowship you want to apply for. Unfortunately, I am from Fulbright Nehru Doctoral Research Fellowship, so I can speak more about that. And personally, I think that majority of the students I have would, that category would suit them the most. But for senior professors and senior artists, I would say, such as I can see a few faces such as Ujjwal sir and Deepak sir and all that, they rather would like to apply for a fellowship known as, okay, just give me a second.
It's like professional, academic.
Yes, yeah, I'll share the screen and go.
Let's
Go through
go through all the categories.
Yeah, I'll go to it one by one. Yeah, how can I share the screen? Just give me a second. Sir, I cannot share the screen. I can.
Did I not allow that?
I can. That is my bad.
Multiple participants. There, it should be okay.
Yeah. So this is their brochure for last year. And you can find it on USEF website. And if you find any problem in understanding that, you can call them and you can email them. They are, they reply you almost immediately. I mean, they will take your call not 24/7, but they're very, very helpful. You can rely on them. You can rely on their word. You can rely on their service. So this is USEF. Okay, that's the executive director, Adam Grotsky. And if you would be shortlisted for Fulbright, he'll probably take your interview. He'll be probably in one of those.
Very nice guy.
Very nice guy. Yeah. Okay. So these are the fellowships I believe would suit to majority of the people here. Fulbright Nehru Master's Fellowship, forget about it. Unfortunately, it is not available for musicians. If you are a performing artist, you cannot pursue masters in the US through Fulbright.
Can I just say one thing? Now, I think most people here are in music, not everybody. I did invite a couple of
Okay.
The masters, unfortunately, for whatever reason, they don't give, quote, performing arts scholarships for, they don't, at the master's level. There's about 10 or 12 categories that are very specific. So if you can look at that, if you're not in music, and see if there's things like environmental science and things like that. It's not about music. So for most of us, the A category masters, just forget it, unfortunately.
Yeah. So, and the B part is Fulbright Nehru Doctor Research Fellowship. And that's, I think I'll dedicate most of my time here. But this is and postdoctoral research fellowship. If you want to pursue postdoc in music, yes, it is available. You can pursue postdoc through Fulbright in the US in a university of your choice. We'll come to that later, but first we'll go to this one, which is Fulbright Nehru Academic and Professional Excellence Fellowship. So it is for senior professors, scholars, artists, and faculty members who either wants to teach or wants to commit research, do research, or wants to do a combination of both, of teaching and research in a U.S. university.
That's basically what I did. That's basically what I did. I got that category. And one thing that's interesting is that when you apply, they ask you what percentage teaching and what percentage research do you want to do? And they don't care. You can do, I've seen applications where people say, well, I'm going to do 90% teaching and 10% research and the other way around. And mine was something like 50-50. And I think I should say that some of you might think that I came to Delhi University in order to teach. No. I came there because I wanted to learn about Hindustani music and also to teach. So it's nice that you can kind of, this is more for the senior people, that you can choose your what percentage that you think is going to be the best for you for your fellowship. I think I should say something a little bit about the postdoctoral fellowships.
Okay.
Just very quickly, I don't think it applies to most people. I've looked at it, and it is very, very academically oriented. Okay, it's like they want to see papers, footnotes, publications, lectures, all this stuff. That's fine. Okay, if you're really an academic and a scholar, and that's what you're planning to do. But so it works for some people, but I think, again, for most people at Delhi University, that's not really their main interest. And I would suggest that those people would go to the next category, which would be the category D, which
I think it's for administrators. It's not for the professors. It's not.
Oh, no, I said D.
Yeah,
I said D.
Oh, D. Oh, okay. Yeah, D. Sorry.
D. You're a singer. You want to go study jazz singing? D. Okay, or something else like that. And then just very quickly, E. That's for administrators. That would be something like Dean Kasiwal or Dean Deepti. They want to come here and see how other universities organize their music program or their biology program or whatever. That probably doesn't apply to anybody here, but that's what E is. I think almost everybody here is going to be in C or D.
Yeah, but think about postdoc. I mean, this is very clear. Like if you are
B and D. B and D.
Yeah, but again, I would like to say something about postdoc because I am aiming to do that in future. That if you want to pursue postdoc in the US, whether with Fulbright or not with Fulbright, you have to be very academic in nature. You would have to have at least 10 publications at reputed journals. I mean, not 10, it's not, it's a benchmark for 10, but if you want to pursue postdoc at a reputed university, they would expect, you to have some good amount of publications. If you're an artist, postdoc probably is not for you, unfortunately. And there are very few universities in the US who offers postdoc. So to the university, I am affiliated to CUNY Graduate Center. They don't have postdoc there. I would have to go to any other university. And even they would have very specific postdocs, such as postdoc in scale theory, postdoc in neuromusicology, postdoc in ethnomusicology, but very specific in what in ethnomusicology. So you have to be very specific what you want to do, and you would have to be a very serious scholar if you want to, get in a postdoc in the US, vis-a-vis Fulbright or not. Okay.
Right, and if I could just interject here,
Yeah, please.
the difference is for category C. Sorry, I keep messing this up. Category B, the doctoral research fellowships, and category E is you can select just about any institution that you want to go to. Whereas with the postdocs, there's only a few places it's fixed. You can only go to those places that agree to be part of it. But if I think Jatin, you selected. You might as well just say you chose 3 places.
Yes.
That you thought would be possible. You could have chosen 3 other ones.
Yes.
Hopefully, they have a good music program where it should be a place where there's people doing what you're interested in. But it's pretty much open. There's thousands. Well, I don't know, several hundred universities here, and there's about 50 that are really good. So there's many options.
So before moving to FNDR, there's one thing which has to be clear, very clear in every Fulbright aspirant. That is, Fulbright will pay only if they will select your application only if you would be interested in doing something which is available in the US, which you cannot do in your home country. That's very clear. I mean, if you want to study Hindustani classical music in the US, they will probably laugh at your application. They'll say that you can learn that a lot better in your country. Why you want to come to the US and learn that? You would have to find some connection in the US. I mean, it's like Professor Claman was telling me that there's a jazz guitarist who wants to study jazz and going to somewhere in Belgium, and he literally laughed on that application. So if he can, then
I mean, just not to digress too much, but this guy, he's certainly he has some potential and stuff, but he wanted to go to Czechoslovakia or Bulgaria to choose to study jazz, and I'm sure they have a jazz scene there. That's okay, but he lives in Boston right now. He can go to Berkeley. He can go to the New England Conservatory. 3 of the best jazz schools in the country are right there, and we're like, what are you talking about? Why did you do that? Why did you apply for this? I mean, if you had some other reason to go there, but again, the point is you have to make a good argument. One other story, there was a woman who wanted to come from Egypt who wanted to come and study Western flute in the U.S. And that's great. You could, but then the places she chose were not top places. And she said she wanted to do research. And one of the places was a undergraduate institution in Virginia. And I said, anyway, I don't want to go into it, but I just wrote and I said, look, if you want to do flute, real research, academic research on the history of the flute, you should go to some place like Yale, which has a great music library. And if you want to study flute, you should go study at one of the top music schools, not at one of these little colleges that you won't have anybody to talk to there, that you'll be above them. I said, you should do more research and apply next year. Anyway, I don't want to be discouraging, and the other thing I want to say to everybody here is I'll help you. And I think Jatin will help you too. If you have trouble, the hard thing is choosing a topic that's going to fit, like we're saying, that you can fits your interest, but something you could like to learn more about over here. We'll help you. That's what this is about.
Yeah. Anyway. So, again, you want to do something which you can do in the US, not in your home country. That's period. That is non-negotiable.
And it doesn't mean it has to have no relation to Hindustani music, which Jatin would actually be a good example. His topic. If you can find a connection with what you're already good at and something that you could learn more about that's related or comparative, great.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to FNDR, Fulbright Nehru Doctoral Research Fellowship, and also explain what my project is and what connection it has from the US. So Fulbright Nehru Doctoral Research Fellowship is for students who are pursuing PhD at an Indian institution, but want to pursue some part of the research related to their PhD dissertation in a university in the US. So my interest always been in physics and mathematics. So when I hear music and listen music and listen scales, and I want to understand how they function and what's the physics and mathematics behind it. So one of my interests was microtonality. that pitches which are smaller than a semitone. That's a very gross definition of it. I won't go too much into it. Actually, me and my supervisor talked a lot and we framed a different definition, but that's it. So I wanted to study microtonality in Hindustani classical music and microtonality in the Western classical music. I want to study how the universe of microtonality works in these two different universes of music, and do they have anything common? So that's what I wanted to do. Okay, so that's kind of project you want to select, where you want to do something in the US which you cannot do in your home country, but can you do in the US? So okay, so FNDR. So as I said, it's for scholars, pursuing PhD in India, but want to pursue some part of their PhD dissertation in a US university.
So, okay. So if I could just, just to clarify that a little bit, Jatin had already been working on his thesis, his dissertation for I don't know, a year or two, for some time, for 3 years, but he found some part of it that wasn't really able to pursue it in a direction that he was interesting or seemed important to him in India. And after some searching, we found a professor here, he happens to be in New York and part of my university, who works on what's called scale theory. And it's very scientific and mathematical and such, but it fits into his dissertation. It's not unrelated. And so it's like, okay, one chapter of my dissertation. So you can still pursue your main topic of your thesis or dissertation in India, but if there's some part of it that you can say, okay, I could research this better in the US, there's some good scholars over there who look at things differently, different point of view, different methodology, I'll go for that.
Okay. So every Fulbright application, Fulbright category you apply to, your application probably would be divided into 4 parts. Four main parts. First would be your research objective. Second would be your personal statement. Third would be your invitation letter from the US university, and fourth would be your recommendation letters. So I'll go one by one to all of them. First is your research objective. So it's a very important part of your application. It's not longer than 1.5 pages. You would have to mention very briefly and very strictly, that what you want to do in the US, why you cannot do it in your home country, what you would be working, and how would you contribute to the field, and how would you contribute to your home country. Okay.
Afterwards, you come.
Yeah, afterwards, because it's a 3-way process. It's like you are staying in India. I'm staying in India. So whatever I have learned in India, I came to the US, taught to the people, here in the US. I learned from them and went back and taught, what I learned from the US to people in India. So you have to mention all of that in that research objective, very briefly but very clearly, so that they can understand. They don't want to read long application. They don't want to read, if you write a 30-page,
do they give a limit? Do they give some?
Yes, they do. Yeah, they do. They generally says, not more than 70 lines or sentences. That's kind of vague, but that gives you an idea that, you don't want to write very long applications. So 1.5 pages, mention very clearly what you want to do and why you cannot, again, I'm pressing this, why you cannot do it in your home country, why you can do it in the US. And why you want to do that in the US? What would that result into, and how would it would contribute to the field in totality? Okay, so that is your research plan. Second is personal statement. So personal statement is as important as your research objective. So in your personal statement, again, 1.5 pages long. In that, you would have to mention the kind of person you are. What's your personality is like, because
other interests,
you can hint about your research plan here and there, but you would have to be very clear that you do not spend a lot of time writing about your research objective in your personal statement, because that's what it's not meant for. You would be describing yourself.
It's a different essay, different topic.
Yes, you as a person, and how, how circumstances in your life kind of pushed you into pursuing something which you want to pursue through Fulbright. So And again, in your personal statement, you want to show them that you're culturally very open-minded, even though you're not sometimes, but people are like that. I'm just kidding. But you want
It's true.
you
It's
want
true.
to be perceived like that.
Yeah. So they might want to. One of the questions they ask when I'm on the reviewing panel. One of the questions they ask us about every application is, how do you think this person will adjust to living in a different culture, different circumstances? Do you think that they'll be able to do that? And so you want to kind of say, if you say, well, I just lived in Delhi all my life, and I just hang out with my family, and I never went anywhere. Then you should say some things you did. You traveled a little bit, or some
Yes.
other thing that you did outside of your studies to learn about people and learn about society. I mean, it's not an exam, but really they just want to know who you are as a person, and that you're comfortable and curious about a place that's different than where you grew up. Doesn't mean you have to know everything about it, but that you had some experience with other things that were different. Anyway, I don't know if that's clear.
Yeah, I mean, that's very clear actually. So yeah, you have to kind of mention things that make you perceive yourself in their eyes that you're an open-minded person. Because again, with Fulbright, it's not just about study. It's about building a community, a global community, which is free of differences and discrimination. So you have to show yourself that you're an open-minded person, and you believe in teamwork and mutual growth. And in my personal statement, I begin with with something which is very close to my heart. That is my city. I love Delhi. I said that as I was born and brought up in Delhi, and because being a Delhiite, being in Delhi, I was always very much used to of different multicultural, multilingual. I was very much used to of a multicultural, multilingual society. I studied during my schooling days with students from all over India. I can speak more than one language. I showed them that I've traveled, traveled India. I traveled to different places. I wrote something very, which might not be of great importance, but I realized it could be. So when I mentioned Professor Claman,
I was going to tell you not to do that. I was going to don't do that.
But I did. That I worked under Professor Claman, and also I mentioned a few anecdotes, such as that when Professor Claman was here, he was visited by a few professors in the U.S. In Delhi. So I went with them to Taj Mahal, and I literally studied about Taj Mahal, a lot from first page to last page in many books, just so that I can describe what Taj Mahal is. And I wrote that in my personal statement, and I believe that must have showed them, okay, so this guy is capable of of sharing about his culture and his tradition to other people, and he can explain them that where he's coming from. So you want to move around those lines. And I love mountaineering. I've done mountaineering all my life. So I wrote this beautiful line. I realized that I said that as a seasoned Himalayan mountaineer, I believe in teamwork and mutual growth. So you want to add these, these very.
I was gonna tell him, don't put that stuff in about mountaineering. That's nothing to do with music. Don't even do that. But then when he said it taught me teamwork, I was like, okay, fine.
Yes.
Good.
So you want to explain yourself as a person, that you're open-minded, you believe in teamwork, you respect for everybody, you have leadership skills.
Teaching,
yeah,
dedicated to teaching, if that's part of what you do.
Well, yeah, I'm not, I've never been doing teaching. I've never been good enough student to, teaching is a different thing.
But some people here are, and I'm
yes, some people here are, who can do that. Yeah. Yeah. So that
shows that you're interested in helping other people. And not just out for me. That's important.
Yeah. There's one line I wrote actually in my personal statement, also, in my research and objective. I don't know if I should say that or not, but I said that the institution I come from is a musical conservatory where music is taught under the guidelines of Hindustani classical traditions or Indian classical traditions. But when it comes to research, we are, not necessarily there where we should be, you know. And I said that I see students who have immense capability of pursuing high quality research, but they don't have, you know, that research oriented environment, which should be in my institution. And I believe I want to change that. And that kind of, you know, okay, he wants to, you know, change.
So this is a plan for after you come back. What's going to, well, one thing that they want to know is not only what are you going to do while you're there, they want to know what's the result, what's the effect going to be afterwards, what are you planning to do with this experience afterwards. And I can tell you, just to be honest, I've looked at some applications for people who didn't do anything afterwards. Okay, and that's not, I'm not saying you should lie on your application, but
you can, and people do. So
there's, you know, it's an application. You know, kind of what they want, but you should be yourself and be honest, and that, I think that's really the best approach overall. What about the letters of recommendation and the invitation letter?
Invitation letter, yeah, that is extremely important. It is not mandatory. They say it is not mandatory, but it is very, very important.
Right. They say you don't need it, but you pretty much do. And I can tell you reasons why you want one.
Yeah. So invitation letter is a letter from a university and from a from an academic supervisor who is agreeing to supervise your research and inviting you to commit research of, you know, whatever your project is in his or her institution. And that academic supervisor has to be someone in relation of your interest, someone in relation of a research topic. So that I'm interested in microtonality, and that's a part of scale theory. So under whom I'm working, Professor Norman Carey. He's an executive director of music program here at the Graduate Center, City University of New York. And he's an expert on scale theory. He has written literally more than 50 papers, literally. So that is what, you know, an invitation letter is. And Fulbright in that department might not be able to help you out a lot, because invitation letter is something you would have to arrange for yourself, you know. And the best way to do it is to check websites after websites, you know, find your expert under whom you want to work. And again, this expert thing might not apply for senior professors who want to pursue research. It's mainly for the, you know, for the students. For senior professors and artists wants to come, they just need invitation letter from the university, not from the supervisor, because they are capable enough of, you know, pursuing research without a supervisor. But if you are a student like me, you know, applying for Fulbright and Doctoral Research Fellowship, in that category, yes, you would be needing a supervisor, you know, mentioned in your invitation letter. In order to have an invitation letter, you would have to, you know, go website after website, or if you can get lucky, you have to make contacts, you have to send emails. Yeah, please.
Talk to me.
Yes.
Okay, that's the other thing. I mean, the way we found, I will help you. I don't know every university in the United States. I don't know every faculty member, but I know, okay, well, at Michigan, there's people who do this. In Boston, there's people who do that. And this is really how we found Jatin's advisor as well, was that when we discussed it, I know some of you might have met the chair of my department, Professor Tilley. He was a musicology professor in my same system. Jatin met her, we talked to her, she suggested this guy, Carey, at CUNY Center. So boom, 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 you don't have to just send emails, you know. I mean, you can. Professors don't mind. They love it when people are interested in their work. You're really not bothering them. Although you should get familiar with what they do, but don't just write them and say, can you invite me to be a Fulbright there? You need to do homework. But I will help you find people, okay? Or not only me, I say, oh, somebody I know wants to do such and such. Like sort of, I think they were interested in vocal pedagogy. You said, well, I'm not a vocalist, I'm not a vocal pedagogue, but I know some singers who are, you know, singing, you know, voice culture, this kind of thing. I know some singers who teach in universities and they know all about that. And so I'll talk to her and have you talk to them. And so it can be sort of a chain, but you do need to look at the websites and stuff. It takes a lot of time. This is the other thing is that this application is what we call a bear. You can't do it in a few hours. You can't do it in a weekend. It takes I think I took 2 weeks, my whole 2 weeks vacation from my college,
Yeah.
filling
So
it
the
out.
sooner you start, more chance you would have to have a better application.
Let's see. Is there any questions at this point? I thought maybe you guys are so polite.
I think we can.
Indian people are so polite. Come on, ask a question.
Can we take it in the end? I believe, because
American students are always like.
Let's take it in there. I believe, because we have some more things to cover.
Okay. All right. We can keep going. Yeah.
Yes.
But if you have a question, note it down. So you don't
but we'll dedicate time for that as well, because we have something, some things to cover. I don't want to break the continuity, because all these things are interconnected to each other.
We'll get to it.
Yes.
Let me just say one other thing about the invitation letter. I got an invitation letter for Dean Castlewall at Delhi University. I did not know her. Okay. The connection for me was I have a friend who's a vocalist from Kerala, who's been my friend for a long time. He did an MPhil at Delhi University probably 15 or 20 years ago. And he said, I wanted to go to Delhi and learn something about Hindustani music. And but I already knew, for an American, I already knew a fair amount about Carnatic music. And he said, well, there's Professor Manikandan is at Delhi University, you should talk to him. So I wrote to Manikandan, and then he put me in touch with Dean Castlewall. She'd never met me. And I was just sort of lucky at the time, because they had instituted a new, as some of you know, so the MA students, they had instituted a new MA requirement in the syllabus for Western music. So I just applied the right time, and they said, oh, great, we'll have this guy, help teach that class. So the thing about the invitation is you want whoever's inviting you to say, we want this person here. This person can be good for us. We want them to come. Because then the committee, the Fulbright committee, doesn't have to think like, well, what are we going to do with this person? Where should we send them? If you say, this is where I want to go, this is who I want to work with, they're inviting me, they want me there. Then the committee says, great. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, whatever. Jatin, the stages of the
we'll get to it. Yeah, we have time. I think we have, we're covering this very quickly. So about invitation letter, that you might have a chance of getting selected without an invitation letter, but for that you would have to be a star, literally. And getting selected without an invitation letter, you would have to be a star. And so in FNDR, 23 people who got selected, including me, only 2 people got selected who did not have an invitation letter. And they were literally, they were freaking geniuses, man. I mean, their resume was wow, literally wow.
The other reason you want an invitation letter is if you don't have one, they can send you anywhere.
Yeah.
They can send you to some little university in the middle of nowhere in Wyoming or someplace where it's just mountains and cows and horses, and you'll be sorry. You want to pick a place you want to go that's going to be interesting, because they do that. I've seen it happen in India. I've seen Americans apply to go to India who had they didn't have an invitation letter, and Fulbright says, okay, well, we need a couple people in the middle of, I don't want to make Bihar jokes, okay, but in some out of the way place that's going to be boring. And you want to be in some place where there's going to be other people who are interested in music or whatever it is that you do. You want to have a community there of people to work with and get to know. So pick a place, find out about some place you want to go, and tell them, this is where I want to go, and then get them to say, we want them to come to us here.
Yeah.
And we'll help you.
Yes. So the funny anecdote, just to share, that I came to know about a Fulbrighter from Russia, and he did not have an invitation letter, and he was sent to West Virginia.
Sorry.
I mean, he was saying that everybody carry guns here. Everybody called me a communist.
This was a state that I never want to visit. Okay, it's like the most conservative, the most backward, poorest education rate in the whole U.S. Don't go there. Okay.
Yeah.
So they sent him.
If for an American, then how difficult it would be for a Russian.
If you're interested in coal mining, right? If that's what you want to do, that's what they do there. That's where our coal comes from. But I don't think, maybe if you were a coal mining executive, you might learn how to mine coal. But I think as a musician, anyway, that's funny.
Okay. So the last thing is recommendation letters. That is very, very important. You might be needing 3 recommendation letters. And if you're applying for Fulbright, Nehru Doctoral Research Fellowship, then you would be needing that one of the invitation letter has to be from your academic supervisor in India, under whom you're pursuing a PhD. And his invitation letter is immensely important. So my supervisor, Dr. Rajpal Singh sir, helped me a lot. His invitation letter was wow. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have got it. So in that recommendation letter, your supervisor has to comment about same things, about or research objectives, that what you want to do, why you cannot do in India, why you would have to do that in the US, and how would it contribute to, to your home institution in India. So, okay, so recommendation letter, and 3, and so in my case, my first recommendation letter was from my supervisor. Second was from Professor Claman, and that helped a lot because he's a Fulbrighter himself. And he was a Fulbrighter, and he's still a Fulbrighter. I mean, but so his invitation letter kind of hinted them that okay, another Fulbrighter kind of likes his idea, and he knows what Fulbright is about, and that helped my application a lot. And the thing about recommendation letter, which generally people get confused about, is that you don't need a recommendation letter from stars. I mean, if you're a vocalist, you don't need a recommendation letter from, such as Rashid Khan or from great artists. That would help, but not necessarily from them. So one of the recommendation letter I had was from one of my old friends. I mean, he's not just a friend, he's also my senior, and he also taught me music for 5-6 years. And he's working in a school, but he's a really nice guy. And he knows, he knows me since last 15 years. So what matters is that matters, that person has to be senior than you. And what also matters, that does that person really knows about you?
For a long time, for several years. Hopefully for several years.
Those numbers matter.
And then I have just one other comment about recommendation letters, because I've seen different kinds of recommendation letters, both here and in India. Sometimes, people, they go get, people in the US, some rich kid, if you'll excuse it, they get some senator, some government person, some famous big political guy, writes a recommendation letter. It's 2 lines. This student is great. I fully support their application. Goodbye. Okay, the recommendation letter can't be 2-3 sentences saying, this is a nice person and they're very talented. Please give them the scholarship. No, we're talking a page, 2, where they say, I know this person. This is what they did with me. This is what they can do. I read their proposal. This looks like a good proposal. Oh, and at the top, the first thing you have to say is how long you knew the person and how you've worked with them. It has to be a real recommendation letter, not just a vote of confidence. And none of these things are hard to do. I hope none of this sounds scary and stuff. It just takes time. All of this stuff takes time and thinking about it. All of you can do this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, so the sooner you start, the better it would be. So that's the thing about recommendation letters. And final thing, that if you're applying for, I think it's for all categories, they might like to see some of your written work. They might like to see what you have written, to just they get an idea of what kind of scholar you are and your writing capabilities. It don't necessarily have to be a paper which is published in a very reputed journal. It can be any paper, to be honest. So at the time when I applied, I had written 3 papers. So one of the paper was about Shrutis, the concept on Shrutis, which is a microtonal concept in our realm, in our music, and it has always interested me. I have many views about Shrutis. I can have discussions about that, for hours. So I submitted that paper, which is probably 20 pages long, just to give them an idea that I understand microtonality in Hindustani classical music. I'm good enough to talk about it so that I can, and I can find some commonalities in Western classical music as well. So you want to submit your written work, you have to, but it would be better, if the written work would be related to your your research proposal in the US. I could have submitted other paper as well, but I stick with Shruti. So please.
Okay, but again, if you're an artist, I've just reviewed a whole bunch of artist applications, people from all over the world coming to the US. You send a video. Here's a video of my concert. Here's me singing, Rag Yaman. Here's my tabla solo. 2 or 3. It's called a portfolio. If you were a painter, you would send some photos of some of your paintings or sculptures and stuff. Highlight your artistic work. It's not necessarily academic. If you're applying as an artist, they want to see. That's the first thing I did. They sent in those applications. I didn't read everything. I went right to the videos. I said, this guy can sing. This guy can play the guitar. They're good. And that's going to be more important than anything that you say, is if you show your abilities. And I know many of you have that. So it's often this says it sounds like everything is academic, but it's not. The artist categories are very important, and they want to see your artistic work.
Yeah. So Professor Claman clarified that if you're an artist, you have to send your work. And if you're a researcher or a scholar working in academia, you have to submit your written work. That said, so the next, okay. So now I think we can take questions now, but this question is very important about the selection process. I think selection process could differ from category to category, but I think it would be more or less same for Indians going to the US. I can tell you what happened to me, what was my selection process, and I think then Professor Claman can, explain his selection process when he was coming here. So with me, I applied for Fulbright in June last year. Then I did not receive any notifications, till next 3 months. Then they told me that you are shortlisted, your application has been shortlisted, and then you would have to appear for an interview. Generally, the interview would be in person, offline in their office, but because of COVID-19, it happened through Zoom, like this. So my interview happened probably in November. Yeah, around November. Yeah. So an interview, they asked questions, the same questions, which you had probably answered in your application, but they want to see your confidence. They want to see that your personality. They want to know more about you. So they were.
How long was the interview? I heard they were very short.
Very short, 25 minutes, 25 minutes, there would be probably 2 or 3 experts of your field. If you're in music, there will be 2 or 3 musicologists, or 6 or 7 people from other fields, and some of the administrators, and also Adam Grodsky would always be there, their executive director. And their questions could be anything at times. So one of the questions which stick to my head, there was this guy from the US, and he was sitting in the US at the time, and he asked me this very weird question, and I was kind of, flabbergasted how to answer that. He asked me, okay, Jatin, let's suppose you got the Fulbright. You are in the US, and there would be few people, Trump supporters, few people in the US who might like to know who might like to know that, okay, you are in the US on our money, we are taxpayers, we are paying our taxes, and you are here on our money. How would that benefit us? Why should we pay taxes?
That's a tough question. That is a difficult question.
Yes, to migrate people from India and other countries to the US. I was kind of confused, and questions like these can exist. And I kind of dodged that question to an extent. I said that what I'm doing would benefit the US as well. It's also in the interest of the US. I'll be making, India is a booming economy. You will always have independent upon us. So whatever I'm going, and cultural relations that I'm going to offer to the people in the US about India and about Delhi in particular would be very, very, very important for the US, could be very important for the US in future. Just around in that ballpark, not exactly that, and not exactly with that amount of confidence. I was kind of worried after that question, but okay. But overall, it went really well. And so 90% of the interview would be about your research project. 10% would be about you as a person. They might like to know, how would you connect yourself with the society there in the US? what you would do to make the society interest in you, because it's not just about academic, as I said, it's about building a community. So and they asked a very interesting question, that do you know any movie or a song or anything, any kind of piece which which you will tell to which you can inform to the US citizens, and they watch it and they know more about India, and they get informed about India. And I said, look, I have traveled across India whole my life. I have enormous amount of pictures and videos and photos. I don't have to recommend any movie. I just, a lot of my original stories and my original stuff to share, I would rather like to stick to that. And I think that was a very good answer, and they liked it.
It was honest. It was an honest answer.
Yes.
And not just saying what you think they might want to hear.
Yes. And I have, I mean, it's a good part of me. I've traveled, across India, and I have a lot of, thousands of pictures and, videos to share, and a lot of my personal stories, my personal experiences, which they cannot find in movies. So you want to be original. Okay. And the last question before the interview ended, that was very funny. So I had a poster of Abraham Lincoln on my back during the interview. I just put it because, I thought he's an American. He looks very cool. So Adam Grotsky asked me, what do you know about that guy? And I didn't know anything. And I'm kind of stuck, stone faced. And I said, I actually went into a fair and bought this poster. I doesn't really know anything about it. I said that very honestly, and all of them laughed. Yeah, I kind of put it because it looks cool. He's a cool, coat and cool dress and all that. Yeah. So, but kind of embarrassing, but it worked.
But it didn't hurt you in the interview process.
It didn't. Yeah. They laughed and they understood.
I did need to say one other thing about the interview process, and I don't think this would concern anybody until you get to that stage. Although it is something to keep in mind for your application as well. Is you want to make what you do very clear to people who might not be experts, okay? I mean, it's a little bit, I suppose in your application, you should talk about what you really do. But here's the story. A friend of mine, she's a South Indian singer and a critic. She came all the way to Delhi for her interview. She got the Fulbright. She came all the way to Delhi for this interview down at the Yousefi Center, and nobody on the committee was a music person, not one. They didn't know what she was talking about. So she had to very quickly figure out how to talk in very general terms for the common person who's not a musician. And so we can all do that. You just need to be ready that might happen. And that's not the only example I've heard that of that happening. Now, again, it's not hard. You just need to prepare. Oh, this might be the situation. They might not be experts in music or whatever your field is.
That did not happen in my case. There were two expert musicologists, fortunately. And
that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they understood what I wanted to do. Okay, so in June I applied for the fellowship. In November, I was informed that I'll be interviewed because I got shortlisted. And after you clear the interview, they'll send you an email and saying that you have been selected for the interview round. Now the time is for the affiliation process, that you will be affiliated to the university you want to go to, or they might would like to send you to. So for that you have to give TOEFL. If you're an Indian, probably, I think this is for all categories, the English exams, and probably the score would depend to the university you want to go, I think. So for CUNY, the minimum score required for CUNY was 90 out of 120, and I got 101. And if you want to apply for Harvard, I think it's above 100, and I think it's for Princeton it's above 110. But again, but again, I don't think that that TOEFL matters extremely. And if you fail in it and you don't get a second chance, and your application would be just, they'll throw it out of the window. I don't think so. I think if you score less, they might send you a different university, or they might give you a different another opportunity to give it TOEFL. I don't think it would be a huge part of application.
I don't think so either. They want to make sure that you're competent in English. You don't have to be an English professor.
Yeah.
They want you to be able to communicate with people verbally and be able to write about what you're interested in. It doesn't have to be
Yes.
perfect.
Yeah. So, so in March, I got my final email saying that all of these students are selected for Fulbright Nehru Doctoral Research Fellowships, and they sent this list. I was one of them. And after that, they said, now we are beginning the affiliation process, and we will be talking to your academic supervisors in the US, and we'll try to affiliate you to the university you want to go to. So probably in July, I got my affiliation confirmed. And the moment you got your affiliation confirmed, they'll ask you when you want to go. And you can go from anywhere from beginning from August to March, any time in between. I said I want to go in August as soon as possible, and then they did everything, arranged flight tickets and all that. So that is the selection process in brief. Any other questions, please? Yes, please.
Hi, thanks for organizing this, first of all. My question is, you were talking about TOEFL. So, like, there's also another English proficiency course, which is IELTS.
IELTS won't work.
Oh,
No,
so we
it won't
only require TOEFL for that.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, unfortunately, because Jatin told me he thinks this other test is better than the TOEFL.
IELTS is better. It's actually much tougher as compared to TOEFL. TOEFL is a joke. Sorry, it's quite easy.
Oh, actually, I'm taking classes for IELTS, so that's why.
Well, that won't hurt. That won't hurt.
Okay. Okay.
I think just sort of going along with that, if I remember correctly, a lot of is it correct, Jatin, that USEFI or Fulbright really took care of a lot of the visa things and such for you, so that's
won't be any problem at all.
That's really nice that they do all that stuff for you. Because
just to share, when I went to the US embassy for the visa, I was terrified. There were
this is funny.
500 people outside of the embassy, 100 people inside the embassy, and I was seeing people literally crying because their visa got rejected. And to the to the visa person I was giving the interview, and he rejected 4 visas in front of me, one after the other. Rejected.
These guys are coming out crying, right?
Yes. And I was about to faint. Dude, I worked for this for a year. I don't want this to happen to me. But he saw my, passport, and he got my information. Are you at Fulbright? I said yes. Okay. Why you want to go to the US? I just said in one line this, and said okay, rejected. Sorry, accepted. Go.
So. Yeah, it's that word Fulbright, getting doors open. Okay, not that it's always justified, but other questions?
Also, I need to ask, is there any particular criteria for the selection process? What we need to really focus on that?
Well, it's really the 4 stages that Jatin talked about.
Okay.
Your personal state. They will want to see your academic record. I think you have to send.
Yes. You have to submit your academic records. You have to, scan them and put it. But that won't play a big role, to be honest. Literally, I mean, my percentage when I was in masters was 65.some%. It's not out of the park. I'm not, literally. And then there were applications from IIT Delhi and IIT Bombay, literally gold medalists from there, in their field. So that matters to an extent, but not a lot.
Right. So I think if you follow these various stages, it's pretty clear. And it's just very time consuming. And I will say that Jatin and I both applied more than once and got rejected. And the second time I applied, I took more care and I took more time, and I showed my application to people I knew who were like, I'm a musician. I'm not the greatest writer in the world. And is this a good essay or a good application? The music stuff was fine, but in terms of the application and my statement, and they made recommendations, and I'll do that for all you guys, okay? And the main thing I'm thinking about, because I think that I just want to say that any of you who want help sort of selecting a topic, because I think it can be difficult if most of your background is in Hindustani music. You're like, okay, well, what can I do there that's going to be valuable to what I want to know, but also that I can't do here? We came up with something, Jatin and I came up with something which works great. for him to come over. So I'm happy to talk with people about all that. And then I do want to say a couple other things. I already said that you don't have to be a star, okay, to get this. You don't. I know some of you guys think I'm a genius and everything, maybe not all of you, but I'm a very average music professor in the United States. There's lots of people like me, and I've met other people on these committees who are reviewing applications. They don't all teach at Harvard and Princeton, okay? I mean, those guys apply too, but part of the idea of Fulbright is to let people come who might not get the chance otherwise. If you're some rich person who's flying all over the world and they've been to Paris and Nairobi and everything, they're not going to give it to you because you can go anyway. Okay, it's nice. They want average people. And then the other thing I want to say is that while you're here, or while I was in India, they don't want you to spend all your time in the library. They want you to go around and see the country. They want you to learn about this place. Jatin went to Niagara Falls, and we went to the opera last week. And we're probably gonna, I don't think we can go today, Jatin, but we're gonna go up to Harlem in the next week, which is that's the center of African American culture in the United States for the last 100 years. It's fascinating. That's where jazz came from, and these wonderful art, authors like James Baldwin and such. So it's, even though you're coming here to do some serious research and stuff, they really want you to meet people, to go around the country, travel a bit, do different things, so that's important. It'll be fun, and interesting. So anyway, yeah. I don't know what else. And so I'm just thinking, anybody who wants to talk to me more in detail about selecting a topic, I'm happy to talk to you. And it can take some time. We need to think, what's your interest here? What can we do? Who can I talk to here? What would be a good person? And especially some of the senior professional people here like Mr. Castellino and Saurabh sir, I can think of very good topics that you could pursue to your interest. I had another idea just this morning. I don't know how many. I know a lot of many of the students I met at the faculty were involved in some of these musical societies at the university. And so I'm thinking like, okay, so that's choral music, choir music. Oh, that's very different than the way choir music is taught here. And so you could have a project say, look, I've sung in a choir for a long time. I've sung in these Indian choirs. Here's some videos of our group. This is what we did. I'd like to come and learn about Western choral music and conducting. I've never seen any good conducting in India, not once ever. Sorry. But you can learn it. You can learn it. It's wonderful. It's fascinating. It's interesting. It's an amazing. Some people say the conductors are the best musicians, and they might be right. There's this whole, it's not just doing this, okay? I'm sorry, it's not. But at the same time, you're learning about all this choral music and different voices, soprano, alto, tenor, bass. There's a lot of options. We just have to figure out what it is that's going to be genuinely interesting to you, but also learn some other stuff. I'm seeing, if I can just say for a minute, I don't know Ujjwal Nagar well, but I know that he was in a prominent a popular music ensemble, and there's all kinds of opportunities here. There's schools, people in India always say Berkeley. Okay, cool, Berkeley's fine. There's 20 other schools that are as good or better than Berkeley. Okay, it's just like Harvard. People think Harvard's the only no. There's a lot of other good colleges besides Harvard in the U.S. And so there could be some very interesting projects that you could come up with in terms of, I don't know, ensemble work, orchestration, engineering, collaboration, all kinds of cool things you could come up with, and you've got this background. You say, oh, wow, here's a video of my band, and here's me singing. They're gonna go, damn, this guy's, pardon my language. And they say, okay, good, this guy's ready. The one other comment that I thought of is that there are some applications that I've seen where people say something like, well, I want to go to the US and study jazz. I'm like, okay, do you know anything about jazz? Is there anything on your CV or your resume that shows that you ever even listened to one jazz record or learned one jazz chord on the piano? No. well then forget it, okay? You should know you don't have to be a professional jazz musician, but you should have shown some interest previously and done some work to show that you're prepared to pursue further work. You don't have to be an expert at all or a professional. You have to say, well, you know, I've been studying this for a while here, and I know this and that, but really there's some gaps in my knowledge, and I know it would be really great if I could go to Berkeley or University of North Texas or all these other great jazz schools. We have these killer jazz schools, or keyboard, whatever, or music history. If there's certain scholars here, there's a lot of scope, and I'm happy to work with people, and I'm sure Jatin is too. It's
yeah, but, okay. So Ujjwal sir has raised his hands.
Sorry.
5 minutes. We gotta take this question.
I thought you were waving.
Hi, very good evening, David sir. I mean, it's such a pleasure to connect to you via video conferencing, and thank you, Jatin. I mean, it's really kind of you guys to, you know, organize this for us. Sorry, I think I'm not really clear right now.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yes, it's clear. Yeah.
It should be more. Yeah, is it better? Okay. Yeah. So I had a couple questions actually regarding this, because I was exploring the idea of applying for it, and I you know, David sir was gracious enough to, you know, reply to my mails, and thank you so much. What I was actually about was. You know, how do you know, the invitation letter? I was curious about how do you approach a professor regarding that? You know,
it's a little tricky. It's a little tricky.
Can I jump in first, then you, because what I did, I'll tell what I did, then you can jump in. So my idea always has been to, you know, impress the professor by reading some of his work. Yeah. So my academic advisor here is probably a mathematician. His work is extremely difficult to read, but I went through it. I probably read it for a month. I read papers after papers. I did not get anything, but still, you know, I sent him an email saying, "Oh, I like this quote in your research paper. Oh, I read this. It might interest me." And also, I sent my research paper to him. So I showed that I'm interested in his paper, and I've done something which might or might not be related to his work, and, you know, what you do in general. So that's my approach. Always has been, you know, to impress professors and experts.
My only question was you know, thank you so much, Jatin. I had a question because in performing arts, what, you know, I was getting confused about was, because there are so many departments in every university. There is an ethnomusicology department. There is a performing arts department in various universities. Yeah. So how do you figure out that, okay, this is the professor I want to write to? Because there are, like, if I you know,
read their resume, I believe. That's the best bet you have.
And talk to people too. I mean, I'm thinking, yes, in your case, again, I don't know you well, but I'm thinking, I'm pretty sure you do composition too.
Yeah.
Songwriting or whatever you want to call it. I mean, look, the thing is, like, let's say if you went to Berkeley or again, I'm just saying that because people know there's so many other schools that are just as good or better. Okay. I'm just being honest with everybody. Berkeley's great. It's just not the only school. But once you get there, you say, well, I'm going to study songwriting with composition with this person, and I'm going to study keyboard with this, and I'm going to study jazz vocal with that, and I'm going to join this jazz ensemble with that. Once you get there, you'll have many opportunities. So you should try and narrow down something and make some kind of connection with the person, learn something about what they do, and say, I really like what you do. This is what I've done. I'm interested in what you do. And most professors, I've noticed some students that I've talked to, they're very, and I think I was the same way, they're very hesitant. Can I just send an email to this you know, not famous, but just some big professor? The professors love it when you say, I'm interested in your work. Remember, it is such a small world. You write some big book as a professor and 25 people read it. I'm sorry, it's just not, it's a small world. Okay, so yes, people love to hear that you're interested, and you should be sincere. I love the way, you're recording engineer. I love the way your CDs, the way, not CDs, but, I love the way your mixes sound, or I love the way you did, the way you interpret this jazz song, or whatever. And here's what I do, and I think there's a connection. And most people are very happy to have you there. For one thing, it's important to know that it doesn't cost them $1. Delhi University didn't having me at Delhi University didn't cost them 1 rupee. So they're like, oh great, we get this, and then you say, oh, I'm going to teach a little bit too while I'm there. Oh great, he's bringing something here also. So I'll help you with that, Ujjwal. I know that you're, again, I don't know you well, but I'm pretty sure that you have some different interests, and so we need to narrow something down. And
I can also
it's not hard.
suggest,
Just take some time.
I can also suggest something. You can check out the website of GC CUNY, Graduate Center, City University of New York. On their website, on the faculty members, they have, because the music department here is very vibrant, and all professors are extremely humble. And they'll give you information, very, very openly. And if you feel that which professor you want to talk to, I can give a name, Professor Scott Burnham. He's a very sweet guy. If he couldn't help you, he will, he'll connect you to other professors. He's such a sweet guy.
True.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. He was my thesis advisor. He knows me quite well.
Oh, wow.
And he is the nicest guy, and he's
genius,
open-minded about musicology, composition, performance. So sometimes you have to do this little chain of connections to find the right person, but it is possible. And again, I just want to say, I think, again, talking to people, I don't think everybody here is maybe as advanced or senior as Ujjwal or Deepak. And so
I'm one more senior, please. I'm sorry, I'm taking this opportunity to address Deepak Bhai, because I'm singing after such a long time. He's such a wonderful person and a artist. And I have, not many know this, but I think one of my major abroad tours we did together, Deepak Bhai, me and Madanji, long back. So I have a long back, I have a connection with him. So it's a pleasure to see you, Professor.
For me too, because he and his ensemble Charyar came to and did a residency at my college, which again, that was really a result of the Fulbright. I met these guys, Pritam Ghoshal, my Sarod teacher in India. I met the group, I heard them, I came back to my college, I said, hey, they're coming on tour to the US, let's come and do a residency at my college, let's go to another college, let's do a TV show. Nobody got rich, okay, but it was fun, and people got to hear them. They stayed with me and stuff. I think they didn't feel too bad. I got that chair there. Remember the chair?
Remember the chair.
And this massage chair. Anyway, the point is, but I think people who are more in the PhD level, who are in the middle of the PhD, don't feel discouraged. Okay, feel encouraged and feel optimistic, and talk to us. We'll help you. We'll figure it out. It just takes a little time and a little thinking to find the right way to go.
Sorry, one last question was regarding these publications. That, for example, if we are applying for the academic that category, that is due in I think the last date is in July or June. I think. I will check because last year I was thinking of applying for the that postdoctoral Fulbright, but that's a whole different category which requires, as you mentioned rightly, Davidji mentioned rightly, requires quite a bit of research work and stuff like that. And
I was shocked.
It's quite an extensive process.
I was shocked when I saw it.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay.
But you're still very gracious enough to take time to read all that stuff. So I wanted to ask. Yeah, I just wanted to ask, what is the best, plan to go about it? We don't need to have, as I heard from Jatin, that it doesn't have to be a very popular journal, or a very, it doesn't have to have an impact value or something like that, especially articles regarding music. The journals we know here doesn't have an impact factor as such, but how old or how recent the publication should be of that article doesn't matter.
I would say it doesn't matter.
Okay.
So paper which I submitted, that was not even published, to be honest. I presented that paper in a university in Lucknow, of which nobody heard. So
yeah, he's talking about for a different category.
That is for FNDR level. For the category I applied to, but if you apply for postdoc, that would be a very different game. And they would expect, you know.
Yeah, what I would say, what I would say, Ujwal, is what I would say, Ujwal, is for the postdoc category, we need some more information. I don't actually know. I can talk to Fulbright and say, I have some people who are interested in applying. They have some questions. Can you suggest someone they could talk to? I think that's what we need to really talk to them, because I do not do these things about impact factor and which journal and stuff. What I would say is mostly that they want to see that your writing is thoughtful and well done. That would be my criteria, but it may not be. They might want to see that it's been in this journal, that journal, the other journal. So we just need to find out more information for that category. But
yeah, for the academic, for the academic one, the category you applied for that, I think does the requirements of the paper and publications are as strict as the postdoc?
For me,
they are not.
For me, or for
the as you suggested. For me, I think you suggested that category, the academic and the professional excellence category.
Well, no. Okay, I got you. So those are almost two separate things.
Yeah,
so what I would suggest for you is that you're emphasizing the professional, as Mr. Castellina would also be. That's a category that both professors can apply for and artists can apply for. Okay, it's in the same category. There's sort of two different approaches, and there's some people who I do a little of both. I write a few articles and give talks and things like that, but mostly I write music. So if you have both skills to some extent, that's good. And again, as I said, depending on in that category, you can say in your application that really I'm primarily 75. They ask you to give a percentage or whatever, a fraction. If you say, well, really, primarily I'm a composer and a performer, and I do some research, they don't care. They're not going to say, oh, well, if you say who you are and what your priorities are, that's good. I don't know if I submitted any kind of written application. Oh, well, I'm a composer, so I submitted written notation. That was my quote publication. And it wasn't published by any, big music press. Most of it was self-published. I listed in my CV. I listed that a few of my compositions have been published by smaller presses or CDs that have been released by small record companies. Now they're legitimate record companies, but it's not like EMI or whatever it is. Anyway, I hope that's helpful.
Thank you so much. Please, I will just wait for others to ask.
Yeah, please don't feel shy.
More questions, please. Yeah.
I had a small question, if I may. Am I audible?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I, for many years now, almost 5 or maybe more, 7 years, I've been writing reviews on mainly fusion groups which came in from the US or bands from, say, Czechoslovakia, Hungarian folk band or whatever, for the India International Center, for their journal. So, every time they have a concert for artists who come from outside, I'm one of the reviewers or the critics. I write for their magazine. So would that also be okay? Something like
I think that's great. Yeah, definitely okay. I mean, especially you're writing for a publication of the IIC.
Yep.
I mean, it's not the Hindustan Times or whatever, but this is something that's a newsletter or a publication that's supported by IAC, which is a big thing. It's a very important institution in Delhi, I think, and I would think that would be great. They would love that.
Thank you.
That's fine. Yeah.
More questions from the students, please. Only senior people are asking
Richard
questions.
Tripathi, ask your question.
Aditya, Harsh.
I think people are maybe getting tired.
Okay, we have been making them bored.
Yeah, we've been going for a while.
Okay, I think we are done. If there are more questions, we can happy to take. If they are not, then yeah. There's no point.
Yeah, if you need to go, we'll call the session to a close. If anybody wants to stay for some individual questions, that's fine. And also, I put my email address there, and you can contact me or contact Jatin. And I want to wish
I can do that too.
I just want to encourage everybody to apply. I'm just do it, okay?
Yeah, and just one last thing. If you have any questions, you can also ask to the USEF. You can send them emails or call them. They are probably the most kindest people working in India right now. They are freaking helpful.
Yeah. Oh, and then actually, I did want to mention. I think I can't remember if I mentioned this at the beginning. They also have, webinars, orientation sessions.
Yes.
That they offer on a regular basis. You just have to check their website, and that's all very informative too. We just thought it would be not better, but different to have Jatin and myself, people who've actually had Fulbrights that we're not administrators, we're people who actually had this experience ourselves and wanted to share it and invite people to do the same thing, because it was great. I mean, I just can't even put into words how great it was.